everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather, and today, since the days are getting colder and grayer and it's a little bit rainy, I thought I would give you all a nice cozy book haul. I was very lucky to be able to meet up with Marissa of Blantantly Bookish again about 2 weeks ago, and she very kindly brought me several books. The first was a duplicate copy of the collected tales of Nikolai Gogol. I have not read any Gogol. I've been wanting to read The Government Inspector for a very long time, which is a play, so it's not in this collection, but I would also be intrigued to read his short story work. She had also been to another library book sale and picked up 3 books that she thought I might be interested in. The first is March by Geraldine Brooks, which is the story of what happens to Mr. March while he is a chaplain in the Union Army during the American Civil War. I feel like Little Women has just been everywhere lately, so I feel like this book would be a great way for me to revisit that story. She also picked up the novel La Familia de Pascual Duarte by Camilo José Cella, about which I know absolutely nothing. But I am resolved to read more books in Spanish in the future, so I'm hoping that this will aid me in that. And finally, we each now have a copy of Murder at the Vicarage by Agatha Christie, which is the first in her Miss Marple series. I know that Marissa has been really loving the Tommy and Tuppence series by Agatha Christie, so we're hoping to do a buddy read of this book at least, and possibly other books in the future. Together, we then went to a library book sale near me, and by the time we both got there, the books were completely free. The first one I picked up was a copy of Lazarillo de Tormes. This is a classic piece of Spanish literature, and this still has a bookmark in it. It was written sometime in the medieval era or the Renaissance, somewhere thereabouts. And I read a probably simplified version of it in high school in my junior year in Spanish class. And I feel like I used to have a copy, but I'm not sure if I still do, so I picked this up. It is the story of a little boy called Lázaro, or Lazarillo, who, in order to earn some money, is constantly being sold to a variety of different masters, all of whom are incredibly cruel to him in different ways. And so he has to find a way out of those situations and make a better life for himself. In retrospect, it's really depressing, but it's also really important, so I thought I owed it to myself to own a copy. I also found a copy of The Breadwinner by Deborah Ellis. I only thought this was a graphic novel that was then turned into a film, but it turns out that it was a series of just plain novels as well, of which this is the first, and I have heard wonderful things about it. I know the film was at least nominated for an Oscar. I don't remember if it won or not. But it is the story of a young girl and her father trying to earn a living and gain an education in Pakistan under the Taliban, I believe. I'm sorry, Afghanistan, not Pakistan. Yes, given its great reviews, I am very eager to read it for myself. Also, in the children's book range, I picked up both Tuck Everlasting and The Bridge to Terabithia by Natalie Babbitt and Catherine Patterson, respectively, both of which are classic children's books. I feel like every child of my generation read both of these, except for me, which I confessed to Marissa, and she immediately shoved these into my hands, saying, "You have to read them." So I will at some point, now that I have copies. And then into the adult books that I found. First, I picked up a copy of The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. And even though this is a little bit worse for wear, I am still very excited to read it. I have not read very many American authors from this era, And I do have one other book by Edith Wharton, but it was finished by a different author. So I'd like to read one that Edith Wharton actually completed before I read The Buccaneers. So this is one of her most famous, so I am thrilled to read about high society in the Victorian or Edwardian eras in the United States. I also found a copy of The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, about which I know almost nothing as well, except that everyone seems to love it. So I am thrilled to pick it up. I hear that Gibran has a beautiful style of writing. I'm not sure if it's poetry or prose. It honestly might sit somewhere in between from what I've heard. So I am thrilled to now have access to a copy. I also found a copy of the script of Notting Hill by Richard Curtis with an afterword by Hugh Grant. I love the film Notting Hill. That is one of my favorite Richard Curtis films, along with Love Actually. My family and I quote it all the time. I love every single character. Quite honestly, I think I love the side characters more than Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts, as lovely as they are. So I am thrilled to now have a copy of the script. I also found another book in the Capitán a la Triste series, which I am still working on reading. This is the last book in the series, El Puente de los Asesinos, or The Bridge of Assassins. So I know nothing about what this is about because I will have to finish book 1 and then read books 2 through 6 before I touch this. I also found a copy of Sex and Vanity by Kevin Kwan, which is his newest release. I could not believe it was still sitting there. I loved the Crazy Rich Asians series. I thought it was really fun and engaging. So I am thrilled to now have a copy of his latest book, which I don't believe is at all related to the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy. I believe it is completely different. It sounds almost Pride and Prejudice-like. I am incorrect. There are elements there, but on the flap it even says that it is an homage to A Room with a View, but with a modern setting in mainly Manhattan and the Hamptons, both of which are very close to me, so that will be exciting. And also looking at race in general and being mixed race and how our main character, is she Lucy? Yes. How our main character Lucy feels about that and how she tends to sublimate the Chinese part of herself in favor of the white part of herself, and how that all changes, and how her view of her own race and other people's races changes when she meets George Zhao. So I loved A Room with a View and I loved Crazy Rich Asians, so I am intrigued to see where this one goes. And finally, I picked up 2 books by Khaled Hosseini. The first is Sea Prayer, which is a beautiful illustrated book, which I believe is a letter from a father to his son about being a refugee. The father describing his childhood to his son as they wait for a boat to arrive. It sounds beautiful and heartbreaking, and I have not read any of Khaled Hosseini's work. I may start with this, I may start with The Kite Runner. I haven't decided yet. But after both of those, I'm hoping to also pick up And the Mountains Echoed by Khaled Hosseini, which has lost its dust jacket, so I really do not know what this is about. But given what I've heard about The Kite Runner and Sea Prayer, I'm sure this will be beautiful and moving, like those other 2 are apparently. So that was it for the library book sale. However, I then went back to work at the local high school, where we have gotten a new librarian who weeded our school library. And so any of the books that she discarded were then free for staff and students. So I picked up 3 books, the first of which I am thrilled about, and it is Dating Hamlet, Ophelia's Story by Lisa Fielder. I read this when I was in high school myself, and I loved it, and I have not found it anywhere since, so I'm thrilled to have a copy. It is, as you might guess, Hamlet as retold from Ophelia's perspective. It does play with some elements of plot and characterization from Shakespeare's original, but I love it because it gives Ophelia much more agency and control, and it makes her so much fuller than she gets to be in the play, which I really enjoyed. And then finally I picked up two other books, which were Mr. Midshipman Hornblower by C.S. Forster, which is the first book in the Horatio Hornblower series. I have been wanting to read this series for years, mainly because I want to watch the television adaptation starring Johan Gruffud. And these are actual editions from 1950 and 1952, which I cannot believe. And since they are library bound, they are going to stay in really good condition, and I am thrilled. Horatio Hornblower, I gather, is rather like the Poldark Saga or the Sharp series in that it takes place during the Napoleonic Wars, but instead of featuring the army or home life, it features the Navy. So we start out with Horatio Hornblower as being just a plain midshipman, and then as the war progresses and he has more and more adventures, we get to see him move up the ranks. So the high school discarded this, book 1, and also Hornblower and the Hotspur, which is book 3. I have also purchased a matching copy of book number 2 from ABE Books, but it has not arrived yet. So there you have it. Those are all the books that I got hold of in October. Let me know down below if you have any recommendations of which ones I should start with, of the ones that I have not read yet, or if you would recommend any other books to me based on this haul. If you didn't like any of these books, please don't tell me that just yet. After I've read them, then I would love to chat with you about your opinions. In the meantime, please be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye everyone.